inviting me and for taking the time to catch me on my home phone. And I appreciate you following up. It's a covet to be able to address you. Okay, so the Indian, it's Halacha Shiur. So the Indian I was going through recently was the Indian of Adam Amazik, and specifically something that's become a little too prevalent, a little too common, car accidents. Right? So in car accidents, when you have two people, and it's a little bit of not clear whose fault it might be, so the question would be who's chayav. Generally speaking, with the insurance, just to digress for a second with civil law, generally speaking with the insurance companies and most common law in America, you have the person who hit, the person actually made contact with the other person. So if it's from behind and someone came forward, or someone was actually driving, even if it was a front-end collision, but one person was stationary, someone turned into him, it's clear that person is chayav, is responsible. But every now and then, it's becoming more prevalent. I grew up in Toronto, it's becoming more prevalent there now. There's something called no fault or 50-50 fault. Like let's say there's two cars driving and they a little bit overlap each other on a lane change. So one guy might have been moving into the lane, but maybe this guy was a little too close, maybe he should have left a little more room. So then it starts getting a little more iffy. How do you look at it? Who should be chayav? So they have something called no fault or 50-50 fault. A friend of mine was in an accident here in Lakewood, and he said that the police report, I never heard of such a thing, but he told me that the police report made it that he was 30% at fault. And then the insurance only paid him 70% of what the damages were assessed for the other person's insurance. Because they said she was driving, but the police felt that you had a little bit of negligence. So this is becoming the new talk of how do we look at it, who do we say, can we shift the blame on someone else? So the shaila is, how do we look at it lahalacha? So obviously the first thing is, most of you probably heard, the Mishnah, Adamud La'olam, Stach Chavav Amar Aleph, in Ketzer Regel and Baba Kama, Adamud La'olam ben Shogeg ben Mezid. Right, a person has a achrayus on himself, he's a muad. Muad, we know, means that he's habitual. A person has to know his koyach to damage. Right, a person can cause tremendous damage even without meaning it, just by being somewhat negligent. So a person right away has to realize the damage he could cause, and he's a muad for that. It's like a shar that would eat or would walk on something. He's also muad for any damage he may cause. The Gemara goes on to say, even from Petzachas Patza, the Chayvas Hashogeg b'Mezid al Oinis Karatz, and even an Oinis. Oinis means there's something that we would normally say is beyond his control. He couldn't have helped himself. Still, he's Chayv. The Gemara gives an example of an Oinis. Later on, Chav Zayin Amar Aleph, it says that if he would Nafal Rosh Gag, a guy standing on a roof, and a ruach she'einu mitzuya comes. So we would call that an Oinis. In many places in Bava Kama, by Shor, by Mammon Hamazik, by Shor Hamazik, we find that ruach she'einu mitzuya is something I'm not really mechuyev to watch out for. Who would have known some crazy thing would happen all of a sudden? So I don't have to necessarily be that's an Oinis. Yet the Gemara says you're not chayiv dal devar, but you're chayiv for the hezek. Actual damage you cause, you're chayiv, because other muad the oilam, even an Oinis. The problem with this is, the Gemara, the next is right here happens to be a Maniach is a Kabbalah Shusarabim, this is Chav Zayin Amar Aleph, beginning of a Maniach. Maniach is a Kabbalah Shusarabim, Ba'ach and Niska Ba'ach Shavra Pat. So here we have right away, right on the same page, we have a big kasha. The Mishnah says that a guy is walking down the street, and he trips over someone's jug, someone's barrel, and he smashes it. All of a sudden, he's patur. It says he's patur. So the Gemara asks the obvious question, what do you mean he's patur? Supposed to look where he's going. And we just said Adamud La'olam, right? A guy should, every mensch, every bar mitzvah and above has to understand that the damage he could cause. So right away, the damage he could cause is when he's walking down the street. He might kick something, knock something up. So why is it that he's patur when he breaks the chavis? So we'll come back. There's a few shittas here, but I'm jumping for a second. Shmuel says, Shmuel Amar, Ba'afei Lashon. It was very dark. What do you mean he's supposed to look? It was pitch dark. He was walking home from shul late at night, and someone had left a jug on the side of the road, and he kicked up the jug. So the halacha is he's patur because it was too dark. So Taisus always asked the obvious kasha. Even if it's dark, other muad la'olam, you better get a flashlight. Don't walk around in the dark. Who knows what you might kick up? What happened to the din of other muad la'olam? So Taisus over here says, Oinis Karatza, right? That brings the Gemara, Pastachas Patza. So he says, Aval Oinis Gomer Loy. Taisus says, there's a limit. There's a limit. All the muad la'olam, chayv on an Oinis, but something that you completely couldn't foresee, something that was totally out of your control. How was I supposed to know? What should I have done already? So that's called an oinus gomer, Taisus says. And your pater, Taisus brings a Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says a guy goes to sleep, and the second guy comes, and he ends up damaging the second guy. And he didn't know, meaning I went to sleep, I didn't know there was someone or something next to me. And then someone else came and left something there, or he sat down next to me. And while I'm sleeping, well, obviously I have no shlit over my seichel, over my body, I hit him, or I break his glasses, or whatever it might be. So I had no idea I would cause that damage. And to the contrary, I went to sleep. The second guy hadn't left it there. And now this second guy comes, sits down, and puts down his kalim. So the Yerushalmi says, you're pater. So Taisa says, you see here in Alf and Araya that there's a limit. Something that you could have, there's no way you could have possibly fathomed that this, you would come to be a mazik, you would come to damage. So then there's no chiyuv for such a thing.
No, it's not a limit. It's Adam or the Olam for the other guy.
Oh, very good. 1 second. So the emes is the Ramban. The Ramban is not here in Bava Kama, it's in Bava Metzia. I don't think there is a Ramban in Bava Kama. Anyways, over here, Bava Metzia, he said, what's your name?
Leib Eggert.
Leib
Eggert.
Leib Eggert said that, what do you mean? Maybe it's a little different, because the case of the Yerushalmi, the second guy came, he did something foolish on his own right. So be'emes, that's what the Ramban says. The Ramban says, he brings Taisus, Matzasi b'Taisus Bava Kama, this Taisus, different Master Shmuel. Then he says that Adam HaMazik is a limit if it's an oinus gomer. He says, ointzin gedolim. That's how he paraphrases Taisus. Ointzin gedolim, a real crazy thing. Taisus holds your pater. He says the Ramban, and he brings a right from Yerushalmi. So he says, ef shilamida. You can't use that as a right. You can't rely on this Yerushalmi. Because like Leib said, the Hasam Mishum, the Sheni Pasha Ba'atzma. Says the Ramban that the Sheni was Pasha. The Sheni, he's also an Adam. He knows good and well that if you put something or sit next to a sleeping person, you do so at your own peril. Something could happen. And the emes, the Oil may have learned when you learn Bava Kama, by Arba Avos and Zikam, on Daf Daled, Taisus brings this Yerushalmi also. And Taisus over there, because he's talking about sleeping. Someone just Pasha Orche, right, it's considered normal. And Taisus says, Taka, a different shprach there. He says, the second guy came, Yoshav Avihu Kalim Etzel V'Shavar, Pater, Deheim Garmula. Taisus doesn't say Oinus Gomer, Oinus Gedolim. Taisus says similar. Taisus himself on Daf Daled says very similar to the Ramban that there's a musaf of Heim Garmula, that this guy was Pushay on himself. What's the precedent for this? The right to this is the sugya on Daf Lamed Aleph. It's Lamed Aleph, it's Lamed Beis. It's a big sugya. We won't have time to fully go through all the Pratei Pratim, but the basic idea is you have one guy walking. It's really a Mishnah on Chavtesima Beis that the Gemara over here analyzes the Ritas. Not a Mishnah, I'm sorry, a Brisa. But the Gemara over here says that two people are walking. Two people are walking, one trips. Tanan, Hayibal Kaira Rishon. You have a guy holding a Kaira, he's walking. Bal Kaira Rishon, Bal Chavis Achron, and a Bal Chavis Achron, Nishba Chavis B'Kaira, Pater. Imam Bal Kaira Chayiv. So says the Ramban, here in the Gemara says, why did he stop? Was he stopping to rest? Was it normal? Did he warn him? A whole, basically have traffic happening over here. One guy has this koyer, this big beam, one guy has a chavis, and it's not clear who's walking where and who should have stopped first and who should have warned. But there is a hechatimsa where the Baal Kaira is pater for the damage the chavis caused. Why? Because the Baal Kaira was normal for him to be able to stop. He also has a right of way. He's allowed to be passing through the Rosh Hashanah with his Kaira. The Baal Chavis should have been careful. He himself could have looked out. So says the Rabbi, you see, Klar has nothing to do with Einzin. You have two people, but just like Yedim is Adamul La'olam, that he has a Seichel Anoishi, that he's able to understand that I can be careful not to damage someone, but the other guy should be careful not to get damaged. You can't just be a Pesheya. And the Ramban goes on to say, back from the Halgufar, Gemara, where Taisus brought a raya from Shmuel that it was dark, the Gemara says that if the Rosh Hashanah is full, that's the Gemara in Chavzai, the Gemara gives another teretz over there. Rab says, what if the whole Rosh Hashanah is full of chaviyas? Meaning I'm walking home, and Reuven decided he's going to block the entire road with his kadmon, with his barrels. And then I walk home and I trip on it. So my chayiv. So the Mishnah says you're put. The Rav says because it's true adam l'adam, but he has no right to block the whole road. How could he go? He's also an adam, and he also has a right to protect his things and use his seichel by throwing all his things in the middle of the street when people are going to be walking home from Mariv and it's dark or whatever it might be. Then what does he expect is going to happen? So this is the Ramban Shita.
Rav argues that Shmuel put in the Ramban. The past will not like that Fela Shon, or is it trapped in the Fela?
Not sure, maybe. Yeah, maybe he has to say it's a machlekes. He doesn't speak about it here. So the Ramban fears ice back from the first Gemara, where the Gemara brought an example of an aynis when the guy's on the roof and a ruach sheni mitzuyah comes. So he says, Seifa Einstein Klum, he says, Fakir is a ride to him. The ruach sheni mitzuyah feel ka'isa sheliyahu b'mashma. Ramban fears ice that the Gemara gave an example of ruach sheni mitzuyah. He wants to say hagufa that's even mashma an aynis gomer. What this calls an aynis gomer or an aynis gedolim. That such an aynis is still chayav for. Why? Because it could be something that no one would ever expect to happen once in a million years. All of a sudden, a hurricane out of nowhere picks the guy up. He had no idea that there was a makkah and everything was safe. And all of a sudden, a ruach sheni mitzuyah that you never heard of such a thing came and threw him off the roof, and he was mazik someone. He's chayav. Says the Ramban, it's a ride to me, if anything. Even an aynis gomer l'chayro should be chayav. So, fine. So that's the chayr the machlekes Rashi Taisus Ramban. The last thing over here is, so what's going to be lahalacha? So lahalacha, there's another connection. So the Mechaber brings the beginning of Hilchos Nezikin, Shinai Ches. Also lahazik mam chavero, v'nezik la'afav yisheinu nena chayv l'sham nezek shon ben shayi shayik ben shayi oinis. That's lashon Mechaber. It's lashon Rambam. So the lach is that any oinis yichayev. Doesn't matter what happened. On that, the Ramah puts in the dafka sheinu oinis gomer k'mo shizbar. The Ramban, the Ramah seems to bring in Taisus that there is a limit. The oinis gomer, there's a limit. The Shach says it should have said yesh leimer. I believe maybe yesh leimer. Why? Because the Mechaber and the Rambam are sosim. They sound like an oinis gomer. And the Ramah seems to be arguing. He should have said yesh leimer. So what you have is Achreinim Medayik over here. The Shach's learning up that this machlekes Taisus Ramban is really a machlekes Taisus Mechaber. It's really Mechaber Ramah machlekes. Mechaber holds like the Rambam, and which is the Rambam, and it's Timas Lashon. And Mechaber holds that there's no such thing as Einis Gomer. Every Einis Yechayev for a special Gzeres Akasa. That's a Tachas Patzah. That's a Tachas Patzah. But the Ramah is going with Taisus. At least the Taisus on Chav Zayin, the one the Ramban brings. And he's going to tell us that there's a limit. In Einis Gomer, there's a limit. At least by Ashkenazim, at least we might see Mammon, if someone could claim it's an Einis Gomer, the Chayav would be Patur. The kasha on this is that the Mechaber himself brings the Gemara. It's really the Rambam, it's coming from Gemara Makis. It's Sif Gimel in Shinai Ches. A guy's going up a ladder, and all of a sudden one of the rungs breaks out of nowhere. And he falls down, and he damages someone. If the ladder wasn't properly assembled, or there was something wrong with it, it's maybe even carved from Shia. Guys should have been careful. You're going up a ladder, you should take a second to be badak that it's safe, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it was a good quality ladder, just somehow it fell out, or somehow it was rotted, it was wood, paste this, and it rotted, and there was no way to know that the inside had been decayed. How is it potter? Shezem maka bidei shemayim. Says the Mechaber based on a Rambam himself that it's bidei shemayim. V'chein kol kiyetzi b'zeh. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Aruch HaShulchan, says that even the Mechaber, even the Shach, that learns that we have a Mechaber and a Rambam going more like the Ramban, that there's no such thing as Einis Gomer, there's still a limit. Even in the Mechaber, Rambam's world, there's a limit. What's the limit? The limit is that if it's something bidei shemayim. In civil law, this is known as act of God, or insurance. In monetary law, in American modern day law, it's known as an act of God. There's an avkad. It's true. You have to be careful. You have to make all the bedikas. You have liabilities, the hulu. But sometimes it's just something totally out of your control. So the kash is, this is my Rosh Kabura that I learned this with Gottlieb. I forgot his first name. So he said, what do you mean? The Ramban says even Eliyahu. What bigger act of God is that? A hurricane out of nowhere took you off the roof. So so we have two mahalchim. Either the Ramban, there's three shittas here. Either there could be three shittas. There could be a shitta that there's no excuses. You're mazik someone, you're chayiv. Zeres akasiv. Or that could be one. That could be Ramban. Then there could be the mechaber like the Aruch HaShulchan, that there is something that's mamish v'nei shemayim, totally beyond the realm of your imagination. That already, of course, we're not going to be mechaber. And then, of course, you have taisus. So listen, if it's a nice gomer, if any judge, any Baal Seichel would say that you didn't really have to account for this, you didn't have to have this contingency, so then of course you'd be puzzled. That could be there's three shittas. But I was thinking something different. In this case of the kaira and chavis, if we would say there's three shittas, one would be have a halacha. There would be no reason to be machmer with b'dei shemayim. Because you have an achas sif gimel, a shulchan, and you have a ramah. And to be mitzi mammon for someone for sure. At least the guy could say kidli, you wouldn't be able to be mitzi mammon. So the halacha, an act of God, is pater. And even an Einis Gomer, an Ashkenazi could rely on the Ramah and say, how could I possibly see this cover? But before that, I wanted to say something maybe a little different. Back to this shmooze of one's going with the kaira and one's going with the chavis. In that halacha, the Rishonim, I think already the Rif himself, the Rishonim ask a kasha that what happened to the halacha of bar. The case is the guy's walking with the kaira and he makes a short stop. He stops. He was Amud Lafush. He stopped to rest, and he wasn't supposed to. There's traffic going. He wasn't supposed to stop. So he made a short stop in the middle of the Garden State Parkway. And then the Baal Chavis is going along also, and he had no idea this guy's going to stop. This guy's a cliche himself. So he crashes into him. Adamud Oilam, the first person shouldn't have stopped like that. So, effectively, what happened to the Lacha of Bar? L'chara, when this guy stops and he's holding his kaira, the kaira is now a bar versus a and we know bar is part of a kelim. There's no chiyuv for kelim. And this guy, his chavis was damaged. So why should it be that there's a chiyuv? L'chara, this is bar. This is not adam amazik. It's bar, and it should have nothing to do with adabul la'olam, and none of this should be shtein bershus. The whole shuz of the sugya. What's the whole point? So the Mukhi Yosef says a gavaldik kazak. He says. Where is it? It's on Daf. There's Vava base in Bava Kama. Daf here. Here it is. He says. The Nifter min Chavis lo mitzinu bar shechayev ala kelim. Why should bar occur as a bar? You shouldn't be chayev ala kelim. Right. So just to be clear, if a guy would leave his kaira in the Mishas Rabbah and Reuven would come and trip over it. And if Reuven would get damaged, he'd be chayiv as bar. But if the chavis gets damaged, he'd be pater. So why is he chayiv when he stops and the chavis crashes into him? That's where you leave it. If I leave something, that's doim l'bar. I think he means doim l'kar bar. What happens? That guy digs a pit. He digs a pit, and now there's a new hezek there. So if I leave my kaira, that also has a din bar. Because I had nothing to do with the mensch. Lav told the baru el commanda ziki bi yadayim dami. When the person's involved and he's using his seichel to stop for a second, and he's still shoyled on his seichel, he didn't have to stop, or he could have quickly started going again. When he does that, that's not really bar. Agam, it's the kaira that caused the damage. That's really adam amazik. So I was thinking efsher that it could be. The Ramban doesn't say it, but with the case of Eliyahu, the Etzim Ramban would agree that it's not an Adam Madzik if Rabbi Shalom did it. If a hurricane came out of nowhere, that's not that. Or the case of the ladder, where he had no idea, all of a sudden, so there was no way I could have foreseen such a thing. A sinkhole. How could I know for such a thing? But Masha'inking, when the guy goes on the gag, it's true. You don't expect a hurricane to come, but everybody knows when you're on the gag, you're taking a certain risk. You're shalop benafshi. You know by going on the roof that if something would happen, it may be something crazy, but if something would happen and there's people down there and you fall, it's going to be very serious. And if you don't take every little precaution, strap yourself in, don't go up, make sure people aren't around when you go up, that's the etzem shalik benafshe, that a person could have used the seichel to try to have avoided that. Hagam in the end, it's similar. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but just as a dimyan l'davar of the sugya tchil v'shia v'soif v'bayis. Right? If a person has mama, and he goes and he's supposed to shmir maman el b'karka, b'mitzia, by shem rechinam. He knows he's supposed to bury the money. That's the only way to properly secure the money. Nowadays you say maybe a bank. And he goes, he puts it in a tzurbani. He puts it into a little chicken coop. So it's very well hidden. No God is going to go look in the backyard in the chicken coop to see if the money's there. And now the Leica comes and burns the money. So the halacha is that it's a machlekes really, but Pashas is chayav. Because Agama was an oinus. Who would have thought that the fire would come and burn the thing? It was tchila b'shia. It wasn't properly shomer from Ganavim until it's in the karka. So Agama, it's Agama in the end, it was an oinus. No, sorry, forget it, the other way around. Even if it gets stolen, he's chayav because of the b'shia that it would have gotten burnt. Sorry, I said it wrong. If it would have gotten burnt, it would be a b'shia for leaving it there, ship it in the karka. When it gets stolen, it's an oinus, because what Ganav is, it's just as good as karka. But since he was tchila b'shia, he's chayav. So the pshat is, even an oinus you could be chayav from if there was something you could have foreseen, if there's something you could have forestalled by using a little more of your das and noishi. That's, I think, after the Nuki Yosef saying. In Cain, that there's a difference between a guy who goes on a gag. A guy goes on a gag, so he knows he's taking a risk. It's a dangerous thing to do. People don't do it just so haphazardly. And when someone does it haphazardly and something happens, it's not so easy to say it was an accident, right? It's like, I used to, when my kid carelessly tosses a ball around, and all of a sudden he smashes something. Says, oops, it was an accident. It's not really an accident. You toss a ball around, you don't have full control of you should know that the ball might hit someone. There is such an afshari, so you can say, and me too, and the wind came, but you're taking a risk by doing such a pu'ula. Something could get hit. Masha'in came, if someone is going up a ladder, and there was no way to foresee that anything would happen, so you could say maybe that's different. Afshar. Okay. So just back to the halacha of a car crash. So now halacha l'mais like this: if someone's driving down the Garden State Parkway and he just stops his car and he gets out and leaves it there, the Maisa happened a few months ago. People died. It was terrible traffic. There was a guy, a tractor trailer was stalled. Happened to a friend of mine also. Baruch Hashem, no one died. A tractor trailer was stalled, and it was at night and it's dark and you can't see till you come close. And the car came, smashed it into it. Happened to a friend of mine also, as a kid did. He was coming home from Cleveland a few years ago, ruined. And he was driving from the I-80, and the tractor trailer was stalled, and who's going to expect such a thing? And he smashes it. So if the tractor trailer was stalled from before, let's say Khalil, no one gets hurt, it's just a case of the car being damaged. So the car is being damaged, so if the tractor trailer stalled and the guy got out and there's nothing you could do, it's no worse than a bar. It might not even be that. So you're not going to be chayav on money. If the guy short stops, just because whatever something, so then even you can't say you can either say it was an oinus gamer, he had no choice but to stop, and then if the Ramah maybe you'd be pater. But if he could have prevented, if he didn't have to short stop, if he's just stopping because he wants a coffee break or to check his text, so then be'etzem he's an adam amazik. And then if the guy comes from behind and smashes in, he should be chayav the guy behind. That's what the halacha should be. The guy who short stops.
Because of the deer or something like that.
Oh, so if he stops because of a deer, then that's a oinus gamer l'chayr, or maybe even a b'dei shemayim, maybe.
He's the
guy in front.
He's the full actor. He's present brake.
Yeah, well, let's say he collided into the deer and that stopped it. Let's say a deer comes out, a tree falls in front of him, a deer runs in front of him, he hits the deer, his car is...
His decision because of the deer or something like that.
It could be then, maybe that would be different. But still, at least Lefi the Ramah, it's a nice government, no? It's a nice government. What was he supposed to do? You run in front of him. You should swerve.
Never swerve.
Why hit the deer?
Never.
What?
Keep going.
It's dangerous to hit a deer. There are hundreds of pads. You smash a deer, it's dangerous.
You swerve, you put everyone else in danger, all on the legs.
Well, you do the best you can, but I mean...
Hit the deer.
This goes back to...
If I just stop you, you don't get anything.
There's a whole shayla. There's a whole trolleyology. This is in the secular belt. Just digress for 1 second. In the secular belt, there's a big ethic. I learned with Nerla Elif one year, about a year and a half ago. I learned with the Yale biomedical ethics. He's studying biomedical ethics in Yale University. So I said, what are the grace of ethics shaylas going in the hallways of Yale? So he tells me, this is a true story. He tells me they're creating autonomous vehicles now, right? And they're creating artificial intelligence that a robot's going to do a surgery, So the shaila is, what happens if you could sacrifice one person to spare the many? A marshal like this: a car's driving, and it's a self-driving car, and all of a sudden, a girl chases her ball into the street. So the car's programmed, you move to the side. What if you move to the side? There's another kid playing in the park. So what do? Or what if, let's make the shayla, what if 3 kids run into the street? And on the side, it's only 1 kid. Maybe you should swerve, kill the 1 kid, and save the 3. So how are we going to program the car? So this is a big shayla. What's the value of life? The few for the many. So the Betza, the Chazon Ish, has a piece on this. That the Kates with Yorik Kates, if a missile is coming flying and one person, in the Israeli army, there's such stories. A grenade comes and one guy jumps on the grenade, he kills himself to save the whole battalion, whatever. So what's the halacha? Or what if a missile's coming towards the whole camp, and you could deflect it with your iron dome, but it's going to go flying to someone's farm and kill a family. You'll save a whole base. So can I deflect it? Is it a ma'aser ritzicha? So Pashtus, the Chazon Ish brings from the Mishnayos and Sanhedrin that you're not allowed to give 1 to save the many. You're not allowed to do a ma'aser ritzicha. Finish. The Chazon Ish in the Supik that here maybe it's not a ma'aser ritzicha. He says efsher. I forgot where it is. It's in Cheshem Mishpat, I think. I don't remember where it is. But the Chazon Ish says that it could be that it's not a ma'aser ritzicha. That to program the car to kill 1 person to save 3 is not programming the car to kill. It's programming the car to save. It's a ma'aser hatzalah. Okay,
What about a person
it's a whole side thing. What about what?
The person's driving.
No, same thing. It's the same thing. If an arrow is shooting towards someone, Chazon Ish says, can I move the arrow and shoot it towards 1 person because I was saving 3? So the Chazon Ish starts off, he says, it's a ma'aser ritzicha, and you're not allowed, like the Mishnah Sanhedrin. And then if you're zois, efshir, it's not a ma'aser ritzicha, it's a ma'aser hatzalah. You're not trying to murder yet, you're trying to save 3 people. What?
If you're deflecting the arrow that's coming towards you, then maybe yes. The guy is in charge.
How do you choose?
It's a self-defense.
So it's still what?
It's like a ball argument about it. For yourself, you can do whatever it takes for yourself.
It's all also.
What?
Yeah. No, you're not doing
Yeah, I know. This thing right now is going to kill me.
Let's say it's coming towards Ruben.
You need a heart transplant, you can't kill a guy takes right? There's my feeling, there's a difference.
So he's going to say, I emailed Mordechai Brescher, I don't know how to pronounce it. He gives shiur for Bali Tshuva. He had a shiur on this also, and he showed me at Tzitz Eliezer that says that you're not allowed to do it. You have hands off. Even if 10 people are about to die, you're not allowed to go murder someone to save 10 people. So you can't switch the, switch. So he passes, you can't do it. It's ritzicha. What's going to be, it's up to the Eibishter. There's nothing you could do per se. But anyways, I don't know how Etzem got into it. Oh, because the guy short stops on the road. So the guy stops on the road. So let's say a deer ran in front of him and there's nothing he could have done, and he smashes into the deer and his car is now disabled, and someone hits him from behind. So it's pasha that he's pater. L'chayra, maybe the Ramban not, but l'halacha, he's pater. In civil law, usually they'll say the guy behind should have left some space. They won't necessarily be mechayev the guy that got stopped. But l'halacha, l'chayra, meaning fakir. Right. In civil law, it'll be the same thing. Because they'll say you should have been careful that something might be in the road. What if the guy in front short stops for no really good reason? He just, his phone was ringing, all of a sudden he stops. So then the guy in lahalacha, that would be a pshia. That's like case of the kaira. And he was pointing out that
He should expect that you should leave enough space.
the kaira not, because it's shnei v'rishus. I shouldn't have to expect him to stop. It's shnei v'rishus.
He's supposed to keep whatever, how many depends on that man's going.
That's what I'm saying, that's a civil law. Halacha, adam mula aylam. I should watch it myself.
To drive in a way that's a mental thing.
I don't expect him to stop in the middle of nowhere. If he slowed down, there was traffic, and it was this, and I was
asleep.
Right. He also has a culpability. It's a two-way street on the mula aylam. Right?
The civil law effect doesn't change the rishus?
No, so civil law, most places say that you go with what the civil law is, because manas came, right? Driving is better a privilege, right? When you get a license and go behind the wheel, you're really being masked into what the laws of the Medina are and the civil conduct of the road. So halacha, most places will say that you get a police report and you do what the insurance settles on. You don't go monument based and use short stop and other mula aylam. But so halacha will go with the regular civic law. But just it's interesting to know what I'll just say one short story. I have one more minute. About I was telling it over my Talmud that I teach during the week. There's this week's parsha. There's two lines. This past week's parsha is so a day late, but two famous psukim of Tachas Shel Levad Hashem Simcha Levad. Without Simcha, so then everything falls apart, and eventually all the Teichika comes on you just because you didn't do the Simcha. All the Muslims say how important Simcha is. Also by the Bikurim, right? It says V'samachta l'fnei Hashem al kol toiv asher asa l'chol v'eisecha Levi. I forgot the exact pasuk. End of Rishon, but Parshat Bikurim. So Rashi over there says that you have to bring Bikurim b'simcha. Has to be the Chag also between Atzeres and Sukkos. But the shaila is, even if Ani brings Bikurim, and what's Tachas Shabbat Simcha? What if I'm not happy? Is Simcha really something b'yadayim? Is it something that I could just get and have? Maybe it's not a happy time for me. I'm miserable. Things stink. I'm a poor Ani, and my sikha was terrible. So I'm supposed to bring Bikurim and say V'samach l'fnei Hashem, or I'm supposed to do mitzvahs v'simcha. Life is very difficult for me. So the Lahavdil of Abdullas, the Viktor Frankl, was a famous neurologist. You know who he was? Man's Search for Meaning. Anyone read Man's Search for Meaning? No? Okay, so it's a good read. So Man's Search for Meaning, he wasn't from, I'm not saying that he's Hashkafas Achayim, but he was a genius neurologist, and the Nazis came, and they took his wife was expecting, they killed her, and they took his parents, everyone died, and Grada could have had a visa to America before the war. But he writes in the prologue, Hafla Vafela, he says he couldn't read Lashon, he couldn't read Hebrew. The guy was a genius, but no chinuch, nothing. And he, on Kristallnacht, in 1937, whatever it was, they smashed up the shul in his neighborhood. And he found a piece of the Aseret Dibros, of the tablet of the law, a piece was on the floor. So he took the piece home, and he felt it was holy Jewish relic, and he brought it home, and he took it to his father, his grandfather, and he said, what does it say? He said, he couldn't read Hebrew. So he told him, it says, and he showed him in the old family Chumash, the Bible, that so the days of your life will be lengthened on the land. And he said, I'm not going to America. He said, I'm going to stay, because this is a sign from heaven that I should stay with my parents. And Hitaka survived the war. During the war, he writes that the Nazis tried to break him, and they tortured him, and he says he was so desensitized to death. You have to see how he writes it there. I won't go barichas, but he says, Afal Pike, he was able to control his emotions, able to be happy. He says, I was able to go beyond, because nobody, he says, can control your response to actions. Whatever's happening to you externally, you always have a koyach b'chiri. He says you have a free will. You have a koyach b'chiri to decide how you're going to respond, how you're going to feel. He says a person in the most dire, terrible situation can decide how he will respond and what he's going to gain from it and how he's going to move forward, no matter what. And he based a whole neurology. He's considered from the greatest psychotherapists. He has a whole school of psychotherapy called logotherapy. Ayin Sham, the book. The first half is all about his experiences in the camp. The second half is all about his psychotherapy, which is a little more boring, but at least read the first half. And he says over there you can be happy. So we don't need a Friday Yid to reinforce it, but you see klar that it's over 10 million copies sold. But you see klar that what stated in Pasuk, Tachas Shel Levad V'simcha, that a person can choose to be happy. It's not stop pursuing happiness. Hopefully I'll get to be happy. A person can decide I'll be happy in all matzavim, no matter what happens. I could take it, I could learn from it, I could grow from it. How to do it is another job. That's his whole life's work. But that's what you can do. Okay, so thank you again for inviting me. You should all be safe to be in Hashem.